Welcome back to the CB show on 89.5 WAHS Auburn Hills. I'm Brandon Wynn here with,
Connie Rabbani.
and our next segment, I was searching the internet, wound up on CNN.com, and found a news article about the U.S. military. And if you don't know, the U.S. has a military base facility in Japan on the island of Okinawa. Did you know that, Connie?
I did.
You did.
I did.
Good. And the article I read, so pretty much after World War II, the U.S. military occupied a small section of the island of Okinawa, which is roughly 640 kilometers, about 400 miles south of Japan, the same distance from the coast of China, and is almost 300 miles north of Taiwan. The chain of islands, part of the country of Japan, houses roughly 1.3 million residents, with about 800,000 being residents of the Neha area where the capital for Okinawa is housed. This month, from the article, it said Secretary of Defense Ash Carter announced that the U.S. military will return an area of more than 9,800 acres of land the U.S. has held since World War II. Okinawa is part of a territory officially referred to as the Northern Training Area. Secretary of Defense Ash Carter met with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe at his office in Tokyo. More than 52,000 U.S. troops are in Japan, adding on civilian personnel, contractors, and dependents. The U.S. presence tops 100,000. More than half are based in Okinawa. In 1972, the U.S. turned most of Okinawa over to Japan after controlling it from the end of World War II in 1945. The American military uses the base for training and used it as a strategic location to keep other countries in check. According to Marine Corps spokesperson Lieutenant Martin Harris, U.S. forces are in Okinawa to maintain Asia-Pacific stability, not just Japan. In Okinawa, many residents think it's unfair for Japanese government to pay more to host a U.S. base, especially if they are paying more than other countries such as Germany and South Korea. Let's just take a moment to pause and review what I just read from that. I got my sources expand. I have CNN as a source, ABC News. So it's not just one article that I read, it's many. But do you think it's unfair for the Japanese government to pay more to house a U.S. military base than it is for other countries? Connie?
I mean, if they've already been hosting this base for so long for the same price and it's going to be the same amount of people, I would think they should keep the price the same. But technically, prices have changed in the U.S. since back then. So if anything, if they would raise prices on Japan, they should raise prices elsewhere as well so that they don't feel targeted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's just my thought on it.
Do you think the pricing is more high for Japan because of what the past Japanese governments have done to the U.S.? Or do you think it's just because?
I don't think it's just because of what Japan's done. I think it's just because it might even just be an attempt to get more money into the U.S. because of our debt. I would think that's another just kind of a tactic to get some money in. But it would be a better tactic if, like I said, we included we raised prices elsewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like Germany and South Korea.
Yeah. It would just, especially because prices have changed. So it would only be fair.
Also in the article, it said to facilitate the return, the Japanese government has agreed to build 6 helicopter landing zones as well as some access roads to allow U.S. troops to train in the area. So they're still allowing, the U.S. isn't giving back, everything that, it's not really property of the U.S., but what we technically own.
Yeah.
But Japan's still letting the U.S. troops train there, which they used before pretty much to train I think I read it was like jungle warfare. They use the area to train for. But I mean, at least the Japanese government is, you know, using the land for at least still military things where the U.S. and any military can use.
Yeah, but I mean, so it says they've agreed to build 6 helicopter landing zones and access roads. So that's what Japan's paying for.
That's
For-
what they're building.
Yeah, they're doing that under their own like will. They just decided.
Yeah, we're giving back 9,800 acres. Which,
Oh, and that's them in return, like returning a favor.
yeah, I mean, what else could they do with military land that it's been used for so long? I guess.
Well, I mean, the only reason I was asking that is because I know that you said they're doing it in return of our generosity with their land, but we're also raising the price on them.
Well, we're not raising the price. It's just higher pricing than like a base in Germany or South Korea. Like I don't have the exact amount
then-
of that Japan's paying and the difference between Germany and the South Korean bases, but the CNN article said that Japan is paying more and that the Okinawa citizens say that it's unfair for Japan to be paying more.
Well, I mean, I know that the Okinawa base is a really strong tactic for the U.S. when it comes to warfare, and I see it as an important principle for us. And I don't know if charging more is going to help us in any way. I feel like in order to keep almost a trust, I wouldn't even bother touching the price unless something were to come up, like something unfair on their part, like, oh, they invaded our bases and trashed something, then you could raise the prices and, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like they're being unfair.
Yeah. The article also said the U.S. military is expected to continue to administer the area. So, like I said, they're not leaving, but they're turning over the area that pretty much the base is on. It didn't say if it was how big the actual base was, like if they're just removing the entire base. It just said 9,800 acres, so that could just be a small section of the base, but it never specifically stated how big the base actually is in Okinawa, so I don't have that information. But, yeah. Any thoughts? Should I go on?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. The decision has been in negotiation since the 1990s, but tension between the residents and U.S. troops this year has deteriorated following several violent incidents related to the American base on the island. In March of 2016, an American soldier was arrested on a charge of raping a Japanese woman. Just before
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Just before that incident, a 33-year-old Navy lieutenant was arrested for allegedly groping a 19-year-old Japanese woman on an airplane and punching her multiple times in the head. 60,000 residents of Okinawa in June came out to protest the U.S. military base on the island. The island's governor, Takeshi Onaga, said he would strongly ask the Japanese government to move all U.S. military bases outside of Okinawa. He also stated, the government should know that the anger of the people in Okinawa is almost reaching a limit, and it is not right to sacrifice Okinawa people for military bases anymore.
I agree with them on that part.
You mean like the government or the people protesting?
Yeah, the people not agreeing with we're still talking about the price, right?
Well, now we're just talking about the residents want the U.S. military base out.
Is it just, okay. I mean,
The price was just one
Yeah.
thing that they were
because I don't know if
concerned about Japan paying more. But now we got an American soldier allegedly raping a Japanese female, and then another Navy lieutenant having an incident with a 19-year-old. So now that brought on the 60,000 residents to protest the base in June,
Okay.
and the governor of Okinawa to pretty much tell the Japanese government that uh, Japan should not let the residents suffer anymore because of this base or anything.
Yeah, so I mean, the base is there to like keep everyone in check, and it helps us in a way. But if you put yourself in their shoes, imagine, okay, let's say the Japanese had a base on our soil and they came in and we're all thinking, but it's our soil, why would they have it here? This is America, because I know we would all be thinking it. And then all of a sudden we hear breaking news, and then 19-year-old woman on an airplane punched multiple times in the head and groped.
Yeah.
And let's say it's an American girl, and then another American was raped because of these Japanese people. Would we be happy?
No.
So I stand with them on that part. I would not be happy. I'd want them out too. So, I mean, sure, it's our people over there, and I know that there are things that we do to punish these soldiers and stuff that do this, but I don't know what actions were taken against these two, but I personally would not put them back on that base. I'd take them out, replace them with someone else, and apologize to the Japanese.
Yeah, but apologizing to the residents isn't really gonna help anything. They're still gonna have their dislike of the American soldiers there. An apology is not really gonna fix anything. So
I know it won't fix anything, but it will at least make us look like a better person. Like, they do not, sure, they represent America, but they don't represent the Americans. You know what I'm saying?
But I'm sure if they hear about this one, then they're going to think every American will do it. So that's kind of why I think they're protesting to get the base out, because they don't want anything like this to happen again.
I would make a proposal then. If an apology wouldn't work, I would apologize and then make a proposal. Say, if this happens again, these actions will be taken into action, and then we will be doing this right now to make sure that this doesn't happen, but if it continues to happen, then we're out, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would think.
Well, that's kind of what this article is about. So the U.S. military is returning 9,800 acres of land. Now, we don't know if that's the entire base or just a small section, but they are returning some land, if not all. Where did I leave off? As many citizens of Japan urge the removal of U.S. military presence in Okinawa, some worry that a cutback of U.S. troops would pose a major security risk given the rising tensions with China and North Korea. So the U.S. base isn't all bad, because it's kind of Japan's comfort blanket with the tensions between China and North Korea, since we know North Korea, America has tensions too. But Japan is a smaller country than America, so they're kind of more easier to take over. Given the size, if North Korea and China combine forces, I mean, China's so huge.
Yeah.
That'd be done in a day, but
I see. I know what you're saying. I mean, so technically they're kind of stuck between what they should do. Should they?
It's kind of split. I mean, more people want them out, but some feel that if the U.S. is removed, then their security is pretty much gone.
I'd be more concerned about my security than how people are, how they're all upset. I'd be more concerned about my security than how these people are reacting.
Yeah. So the formal handover is due to take place on December 21st and the 22nd of this year, and an event that both U.S. Ambassador Caroline Kennedy and the commander of U.S. Forces Japan, Lieutenant General Jerry Martinez, will be attending. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe met with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump in New York. Abe was the first foreign leader to meet Trump since the U.S. presidential election. The Prime Minister told reporters afterward that he hopes to maintain strong ties with the new Trump administration. And also in an article I read, it said that some residents feel with Trump's power being not the new president, he'll be the one to pull out forces in Japan. Like, I was reading some did not like his election in the U.S., but some felt that he'll be the one president to pull out the forces um, from the entire Japan. But then we go back to the risk of Japan's tension with China and North Korea, and that's just a huge risk factor given Japan's location and the U.S. being the. It didn't say the only thing stopping North Korea and China, but that's a pretty big security blanket for Japan with the U.S. there.
Yeah, but isn't Okinawa also a not just a training base for us, but isn't it like a strategic part of our plans sometimes, like overseas?
Yeah, because Okinawa, it's a small island just off of Japan, and it's 400 miles south of China, 300 miles north of Taiwan. So we have access to watch China, Japan, Taiwan. Then we're close enough to watch our base in South Korea, and then we can watch North Korea, and then all the other Asian countries that we can. And it's pretty much just a zone where we can watch all these other countries that we have tensions or non-tensions with, especially with ISIS growing in the Middle East. So we have the Okinawa base, the South Korean base, and the Germany base all tying in.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like Okinawa, I know, definitely supports both of us in a way. It's not just a security blanket for them, but it's also a security blanket for us in a different way. They're not technically defending us, but they're helping us because it brings us one huge step closer to seeing our allies and enemies in action than if we didn't have it. And you said Trump is thinking about pulling the soldiers out.
He's not thinking of it. The residents of Okinawa feel that with Trump being president, he'll be the one U.S. president that would pull out the military.
Okay, so he never said that he would, but they believe that he will.
Yeah, just on speculation. There's no real
Evidence.
that he's going to.
Okay. Well, if he did, he better have a good reason. Besides, like being against the Japanese or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But in this article from WUNC.org, Trump repeatedly said that Japan should pay more for hosting U.S. forces. So going back to what we said at the beginning, with Japan paying more than to house a U.S. base in Germany or South Korea or other countries, Trump said that he wants to raise the price or the cost.
Now that I see both sides to it, I know that we're a security blanket for Japan. And is the Japanese already paying more than everyone else?
They're paying more than Germany and South Korea. Those are the two base
But
examples.
that's already. That's not with.
That's all.
Okay. So
But
I
think we've held Okinawa longer than Germany and South Korea, because South Korea we probably would have gotten a base in the 70s, and I don't know when Germany was. Maybe that was right after World War II. But we've had Okinawa since 1945, just right after World War II. So I was like, I'm not 100% sure, but that's probably one of our first non-U.S. bases that we've had. I mean, I don't know U.S. military history, but given current knowledge, Okinawa was probably one of our first.
Yeah, I think considering that we're a big safety blanket for them, do you feel like Trump's kind of bribing them, like playing that whole, oh, if you don't pay up, then I'm going to pull all of our troops out and you're not going to have any safety? Do you think he's like trying to scare them into paying?
Well, I don't know. He didn't really state that, oh, if you don't pay this, we're going to pull out and you'll probably be taken over or something. He didn't really say that, or at least that's not what the article says.
But it's kind of implied.
But, I mean, really, Japan's such a small country, and I don't have the square mileage of the actual area of the country, but compared to China,
Yeah, I know.
Japan's
It's like the little
maybe
pinky
a
toe
percent. Yeah, literally the pinky toe
of a whole body.
of China.
Yeah.
And they're so close. I mean, it'll take not even an hour to get Chinese forces there to take it over. But with U.S. there, that's kind of stopping China and North Korea currently.
Well, then I'm starting to almost believe it's a good tactic that Trump would be thinking about raising the prices. I know that. Were you raising your hand?
Oh, I just had something to add when you were done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I think it is a pretty good tactic then. It helps the U.S. with their debt in a way. It also, like I said, since prices have changed, since all of this, there should be a price raise just like there's prices raised in our items that you buy. There's also, because of that safety blanket, I know our soldiers were being, not proper soldiers in their sense in those two situations, but it does happen everywhere, and people do take action with that. Yes, Okinawa residents shouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy either. But with the talking about the prices, I do actually think that is a pretty good tactic on Trump's side.
Okay, going back to the WUNC.org article, I was just looking over what I highlighted, and it says under a treaty that dates back to the end of World War II, Japan does not use its own self-defense forces to wage war and relies on U.S. forces to act as a buffer against rival nations. So right there it says Japan can't use its forces to defend itself since, dating back to World War II. We all know Japan was against the U.S., so I see why. But we're in a new day and age. I feel like they should have at least a small army to defend themselves. And it goes on to say, right now the Japanese government is paying Washington $1.8 billion annually for this added security. So they're paying $1.8 billion annually to house the U.S. in the Japanese country. Okinawa is central to the relationship between Japan and the U.S., since the vast majority of U.S. military bases in Japan are located on the small island. So Okinawa isn't the only place with a base, but it is the largest area with U.S. personnel.
Since they're technically treating our troops as their troops, they should be paying for our military like we do.
Yeah, so they should have like a tax base type of thing where their tax dollars go towards the military.
Yeah, because if they don't even have their own military by now and they're using ours as theirs, they should be treated the same way we're being treated about our military. Especially if they're going to use it like their military.
It also says many Okinawans have strong opinions about Trump's remarks that the U.S. could withdraw troops unless Japan pays more money.
That's what I just said. Remember earlier I said,
Yeah.
Did he ever say that? And you were like, not really. I said it's implied. And there it is.
Well, now reading over my notes. Some worry that cutting back U.S. troops would pose a major security risk, given tensions with Japan and North Korea, which I pretty much read in my main essay. But just looking over that article, just to add on some things.
Yeah, 1.8 billion is a lot, but yeah, like we've said,
I mean, they're
prices
Japan.
changed.
They have Tokyo. They produce a lot of things, so
Yeah.
they kind of have a lot of money.
Yeah, it's not like.
I don't know how much money, but they do produce things.
And
I
if
know
they
we
can
get
pay
a lot from
1.8
them.
annually, and I'm sure they wouldn't be, they wouldn't have to complain about paying a little bit more. I don't actually know how much. Do you know how much more they would be paying?
It doesn't state in any articles that I've read so far.
Maybe it's like after a deal is passed. Maybe they're negotiating prices.
Yeah, and that would be after Trump took office. So he doesn't
Yeah.
take office until late January.
Yeah.
So Obama right now isn't going to really do anything. But until Trump takes office,
Nothing can be done.
nothing really can be done. Except this, the land being turned over
Yeah.
December 21st and 22nd.
Well, I feel like I've stated pretty much. I feel like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know exactly what should be done. Like I've said before, I feel like that's a good. In the beginning, I didn't think it was so good just because I didn't have all that, like, in my information about
Yeah.
safety blanket. Didn't have. I just thought it was us charging them more just because, and us being mean to them on top of that.
Yeah, and
But
then hearing that two soldiers this just year that we know about
yeah,
having incidents with the Japanese people, I mean that kind of puts a bad name on us. But then once you know more information,
about
it's
what we
kind
do
of
for them.
it's kind of 50-50 for the residents to decide.
And also, it's an individual choice what the soldiers did in those situations. It's
Yeah.
not what we made.
It doesn't reflect on the military or anything.
Yeah, so it's that should, yes, that does put a bad name on us for a second, but it's not like we told them to do that.
Yeah.
That was an individual choice, so it should be on them.
Mm.
That's all. That's all I have to say. Anything?
That's it. I think that pretty much wraps it up for this talk topic. So you're listening to the CV show on 89.5 WAHS Auburn Hills. I'm Brandon Wynn here with,
Connie Rabani.
and we'll be right back